1, 2, 3.
The Trump administration, along with Big Pharma in the US, were and are attempting to monetize any potential vaccine for coronavirus. Making money from this situation, well, that would be sick enough if everyone on the planet survived. It's clear how dangerous this virus is without a vaccine, as there are people dying from it already. At the time of filming, those numbers of deaths are over 15,000. So, the same disgusting ideology, people and companies, given their fiduciary duties, belief that no regulation will somehow work for everybody, the capitalist system, and disregard and loathing for the 99%, they'll carry on the pursuit of profit and growth. Growth. The underpinning of the socio-economic con job we live under. The never-ending search for more people to come across with more of the little that they have. How else are the richest on the planet going to continue to make even more money if they don't find more of the poorest to give up what they don't have? So, where on earth could they find that growth? If only there was a country that's relatively well off, that had a potentially lucrative healthcare market. One that's a similar right-wing, laissez-faire capitalist running the show as here in the US. A country whose people were recently duped into giving up their membership of the single largest economic market on the planet. Where could such a mark... Sorry, not a mark. I misspoke there. Partner be found. US Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, the man running the trade talks for the Trump delegation. Well, he accepted that the UK was sensitive about access from the US to the National Health Service, but said UK should be open to it. And I quote, "We would expect that we should have access in the healthcare area to the respect that there's private section competition," he said. Beside Lighthizer's comment, we know that this is just the surface of the ambition of Trump's administration. How do we know this? Well, we've been told by the US government in black and white. That's how we know. Channel 4's Dispatches ran a programme last year where they interviewed Stephen Vaughn, previously the General Counsel for the Office of the US Trade Representation. Vaughn completely corroborated the viewpoint that the US, almost at all costs, will get a part of the National Health Service. He said he doesn't understand what Boris Johnson means when he says the NHS is not on the table. Asked what he thought the outcome would be if the UK stuck to their position, Vaughn said, well, that really goes to the question of what the UK government means when they say the NHS is off the table. I don't know what they thought they meant when they said that. Vaughn continued, I would expect US negotiators to see what we could do in terms of getting increased access to the British market. That's what we do. I think it's going to be likely to come up because the US mentioned pharmaceuticals in its negotiating objectives. Vaughn's opinion should be listened to. He played a key role in recent trade deals with Canada, Mexico and South Korea, which saw the US win key concessions over the price these countries paid for US medicines. So he knows the US strategy and exactly what they want and how they get it. Trump takes such a tough stance over drug pricing because, as he sees it, the US are subsidising the rest of the world's low drug prices. Let's just park low drug prices for the moment. Basically, US patients pay more because Big Pharma has failed to charge more elsewhere around the world. I know it's difficult to spot the never-ending torrent of hypocrisy from Trump, but do you see the contradiction to the right's thinking here? The big, beautiful capitalist free market, able to command prices regulated by the demand placed on the market, is apparently not working. At least in this case, it's not working in the US's favour. And that's the problem Trump really has. Like a child, he wants us to play by his rules. And when those rules no longer favour him, he wants to change the rules. Now, just to stretch this tortured analogy a little bit further, well, I've committed to it now, so sorry, but I'm going to get through it. If he doesn't get his way, he will take his ball home. Sad that I have fallen so low in the age of Trump, I'm now equivocating the importance of medicines for the entire world with a child's toy. There's a very good reason a government should look to secure reasonable prices for pharmaceuticals. It's the same reason Big Pharma should sell their products at reasonable prices in the first place, unless they really are the ghouls that they seem to be. You ready for this? Here's why. Because it's not a flipping TV. And like a TV, medicine is not an option. It's not a lifestyle choice. It's not something I want to upgrade to. Well, I would like the 60-inch, but I can get by with the 50-inch. This is a necessity, a non-negotiable. It can literally be life and death. To give an example of the cost of a medicine, we can look at one that has to be used by all too many, insulin. In the US, a vial of insulin from one of the 3 big pharma companies will cost around £220. There's no direct comparison in the UK, as there is no provider that charges more than £20 per vial, and most are cheaper. These drugs are part of the £16 billion spent every year by our NHS. It's this market that US Pharma wants the Trump administration to deliver. You can see why. Despite Johnson claiming the NHS is off the table for the trade deal with the US, even if those words are true, when you have a healthcare lobbying group in the US that's telling the American people what the policy for their health emergency is, it tells you how the US delegation will view their negotiations. They have big money interests to fight for, and so that's what they'll do. Even if the NHS isn't offered wholesale, but Big Pharma are allowed access to the drugs market, once they have a foot in the door, their lobbyists will have one mission and one mission only. And that is to push and push and push for further change to their advantage. Apart from the instant money spinning deal it will be, there's another reason for them to do so. Growth. Remember? Without growth, how are the shareholders going to get their payday? How are the already incredibly wealthy going to get their hands on even more wealth? It can only come through growth. One way to grab that growth is, while ensuring you're selling to a group outside of today's custom, charging the maximum that can be charged to that new customer group. That's vital. This will mean the NHS budget is effectively smaller, considerably smaller, if they have to pay even more for the drugs that they currently pay for. Doctors, nurses, their training, that will cost money. Money that will no longer be available as it goes to pay for the increased demands from Big Pharma in the US. The facilities themselves have a cost to maintain them, let alone improve them, let alone build new, additional facilities that are undoubtedly needed. Research all costs money. Once again, something has to give to pay for the massive increase of a lobbyist-led big pharma. Does this sound like an NHS free to decide in the best interests of all its patients? Does it sound like an NHS where the patient will be at the heart of everything the NHS does? Does this sound like an autonomous organisation making choices that best support the NHS Constitution? Access to NHS services is based on clinical need, not an individual's ability to pay, and the NHS is committed to providing best value for taxpayers. That's clauses 2 and 6, respectively, of the NHS's Constitution. The NHS has had a constitution since its inception in 1948. The final clause, clause 7, states, "The NHS is accountable to the public, communities and the patients that it serves." Doesn't make any mention of Donald Trump, US trade negotiating teams, or Boris Johnson's re-election campaign. Hi there, once again, thanks for watching the video. Now comes the part where I'm going to ask you to help the channel out. If you could hit the like button for this video, comment, let me have your thoughts. Share it with somebody that you think would get value from it. Subscribe so that you get all the future content. However, please remember to click on the bell icon. What would really help the channel out in a tangible way is if you could consider becoming a patron of the channel. If you visit patreon.com/partypoliticalpuffin, just take a look. That would be great. Once again, thanks for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.